Hey everyone, I was recently putting in my downpipes as I do, and I went too fast and I swapped the DOWNSTREAM O2 sensors. And I've been driving on with over a month of them swapped, and it's time to swap them back. Typically I have the downpipe removed, but I've been looking for sources and I can't seem to find one. I know this can be done without removing the downpipe, so I am determined to do this. I will also be doing the front O2 sensors and showing how to replace those. Those are wideband, so they are far more important, they're more influential, and they are more expensive. So make sure if you replace the front ones to do it carefully, unclip them from the engine bay, twist them so they twist at the same time to not fracture them. Also make sure you replace them with the OEM ones or Bosch certified ones. The downstream ones, the rear ones, post-cat, are not as important. You can probably splice in nearly anything, don't quote me on that, but I actually did a universal Bosch splice kit, which was pretty awesome, so I'll link that below if you need that. Let's do it. Jack up the car, secure the car, or drive it up on ramps. If you're stuck in the garage, jack it up, put the ramps underneath. Safety first, get a jack stand, preferably one with a locking pin. Double up your safety source. Worst case, take off a wheel and place it below sideways so your car will fall on the wheel and not you. Front one pulls out like that. And the rear one also just pulls out, and they're staggered. Then you'll remove the electrical clips here, remove the side panels on each one. So you'll pull the plug out here, wrap it around. Side panel, which has this little stopper here, 2 clips, front and back. This pops off, and then the only other thing you might have is right under here where this little notch is, there may be an 8mm screw on each side. May or may not be. And you just pull this out. Take off the engine cover, you'll have 1, 2, 3 bolts. And then you'll just lift and slide it out. That's simple. Remove the under panel. The absolute best part of the job. The mission dead ahead. Here's the one that's going to be a piece of cake to access. What you want to do, if you're going to preserve these, we're going to focus on the plugs. Now you could take this panel off if you want to be really involved, but I want to do the easiest approach possible. So we're just going to pop these out of the clips. This is what you want to keep organized, and if you think you can just swap them here, you cannot, because they fit together like Legos, so only one fits in one and the other fits in the other. There are little clips on the side. They're 180 degrees apart. So you're just going to lift. This one you can see is already snapped off. So you do that so that the wire can spin as you're loosening it, so they don't get damaged any more than they have to, and you don't have to replace them because the wiring gets old and brittle, especially near the heat, and you need to take care of it. Even little twists can snap the wire. If yours are as oily as mine, I suggest cleaning them off first so you can get a better grip. Okay. I reversed mine because I wasn't paying attention. You can determine them by sheaths. This one's gray, this one's black. The gray sheath goes to the rear turbo, which is the outer passenger side downpipe, or depends what country you're in, but the downpipe closest to the side of the car. The inner downpipe is going to be the black sheathed O2 sensor, and that's going to go to the front turbo. You can use a 22mm, that's what it is. Make sure your car is cooled down. If these are stuck and you've never taken them off, you can use PB Blaster and let it soak for a while. You can also try to heat this up a little bit with a torch or something. That could help expand it a little bit. To make this a little easier on myself, I'm just going to hammer the end of the tool because there's not a lot of room for me to leverage anything. One thing to note, if you get your oily hands on your downpipes, you are going to smell that burning off later, so don't panic. There's a tab right here. I'm just going to slide it forward and off, I think. Now that's free to spin. The black sheath clip, like this, goes right here, and the gray one goes right here. So the gray one here and the black one here. keep some orange hand cleaner by so you can get the oil off. I should just use gloves, but I just end up changing them. Notice how this spins at the same time. This is the same concept you want to use at the top, especially at the top, so you can keep these fresh. All right, so this one goes in the outer. We now know that. We've been knowing that, just didn't pay attention to that. It's a good idea to change both when you do it because sometimes they're really, really old and the readings are different. What you do is take a 22 millimeter and put it right here and lock it on. Once it's loosened a little bit, then you can go ahead and continue loosening it with your fingers and pull it out. I was able to put my arm up through here. Let me see if I can get a view. Let's see. Like this. Notice my strapped on piece of material there. That's because the edge there is very, very sharp and it keeps cutting into me. So you're going to stick your arm up through there. And it's going to sit up here. Here's my fingers. And you're going to be able to put your fingers on the back of the O2 sensor there from the top. And you'll be able to twist it in. You'll use your fingers below here, right here, to sort of guide it. Point is it can be done. I'm super excited about this. So it can be done. It was a little painful, but once I got it threaded, the hardest part of the whole job is just getting this threaded back in between there. Once it's seated, you can start tightening it. Take that back. The worst part of the job is removing the lower panel. That's the worst part of the job. 22 millimeter arm up underneath here. My fingertips are touching right there. Put the wrench on like that and just tighten. This is already tight. And be careful because that's really sharp inside of the other part. They can only fit certain ways, so this one can't fit into this socket here. Clip it up in there. They have square sides right here. They have square to put it in there. I'll have access to the front O2 sensor plugs right here and right here. This one right here is the black wired one. It's to the front upstream, and this is the gray wired one. You can see the gray sheath. That's to the rear turbo upstream before the precats. Put a flat head on each side, sort of lift this out like that, flip it over and you see the tab. So just push the tab down and then pull the release. That's it. There's a clip here that holds them in. There's a clip right behind here that holds them in. It sits like this. So you got to kind of wiggle it between these two. It sits in the hole. You just pry them apart and pull it out. And then they wrap under here. And then there's a third one. Take off that clip right there on the O2 sensors, and so they separate and let them physically twist while you're unscrewing them. Yeah, be really careful, at least with the front tube. Normally you take a 16 mil open end on the top here, and then I believe it's an E12. You just loosen this, and then you can hit this with impact. It should loosen enough, but at worst case, you put a wrench up there. You can sneak the wrench in right here, or I think right here. I did both ways. And hold it. This one you just need to loosen just a little bit so you can take this and just tilt it towards the front and get enough room right here for your arm. I am using the O2 sensor tool, and then with that you would use a breaker bar and then a socket to finally loosen it out. It has an edge to slide around the cord, so this thing has come in handy many times in my life. You want to note the orientation of the O2 sensors as well. That's what the setup looks like for the O2 sensor removal. This was barely able to clear with 3/8. Put gloves on for this because you're probably going to smash your knuckles right into that pipe, which I just did, but I put gloves on because I'm pretty sure that was going to happen. It's easier to remove this first one before you undo the second one above it. This takes precision in the angle I did it. I moved the knob on the ratchet back and forth until I got it exactly there. I'm only doing this because this one's extremely tight, so I'm using a 24 millimeter box wrench, angling it backwards, and that's how I'm going to break this. Because I mean, you could stick your head up there and break it the other way, but it's definitely going to hurt. So even with a glove. So this way I'm going to do it. All right. Front upstream one was only $100. FCP, and the rear upstream one was 144. I don't know why. Yeah, that's what it looks like. So I went back and actually reran the wire behind that pipe where that one's running, and I kind of made sure that it's tucked out of the way so it's not touching anything metal, because this one doesn't have this sheeting, this thick thermal sheeting that one does, and this is even closer to the turbos. Those are coolant lines, so they may not be as potentially bad, but I still don't want to touch anything. So make sure if you get a chance to run that close to the heat shielding against the fender wall, and then do the best to situate it so it doesn't move. Make sure it's not touching the downpipe. It can be done. See, I knew it could happen. So the downstream ones are swapped back, showed how to do the front ones. Everything's good. Hope that helped you out. Subscribe for more, and have an awesome week. See you in the next video.